There we go. Yeah, it says it's recording. Here we go. All right. Ryan Green and Cameron Hood, two people, which is always fun to bounce back and forth. But we've established, at least for people that are listening to the pre-version of the show, that I am professional at this. I never forget the video. I definitely don't miss any audio cues. And so it should be fine. But welcome to you both to the show.
Thank
Thank
you
you, Sam.
very much. Yep. It's good to be with you, man.
Yeah. So just so that people listening that can't see your faces kind of know, if one of you could just say, "Hi, I'm this, and here's who I am, and kind of why I am," like really existential, just get in it. That way they can kind of hear you drone on for a bit and realize, okay, the next time that person speaks,
All
that's
right.
person who knows.
Right.
You kick us off, Cameron.
That's interesting. Yeah, so this is Cameron Hood, the Hood part of Ryanhood. Gosh, I mean who we are. Like I'll just tell you we're two poets, like a two-man band basically who have been friends for a really long time. Very different people but maintained a friendship and maintained a band over longer than 20 years. We're from Tucson, Arizona. We lived for a while in Boston, Massachusetts, where Ryan went to college, and I eventually joined him when we both graduated college. We started our band as street performers, like buskers with
Hmm.
the guitar case open in Boston, and that was many years ago. We've just maintained our friendship, maintained our ability to write songs together, and I think that we're getting better at it than ever. Um, why we are is a tricky question. That is such a deep question to open with, but at least for me, I want to. I'm committed to transformation of myself and hopefully transformation of culture. Like I want to see myself grow and get over some of the dark places, some of the wounds, the things that hold me back, or you could say the sin. I want to get over those and transform those in myself, and I want to document that through words and stories and songs to help other people do the same thing. The more of us who do that, the more I think we see the kingdom come. Like that, to me, that's a tangible thing. I want to help see the kingdom come, and I want to be a part of that. That animates me. So that's why I am Ryan Green.
Nice.
All right. My name is Ryan Green, sometimes known as Ryan David Green, when I want a little more uniqueness. Uh, and I am the tenor voiced half of this podcast. I think I'm going to be the easiest one to recognize in this call. If it sounds like this, it's one of the other guys. and and yeah, so Cameron told you kind of our story a little bit, but one of the things as far as who we are, why we are, I feel like the fact that we are a duo creates a really powerful thing because we perform typically just as a duo in front of people, and Cameron and I really prioritize our having a healthy relationship with one another. Um, and I think the fun and creativity and the spirit with which we interact with each other on stage uh, tends to invite sort of that spirit with the audience, with those at our show as well. Kind of a leaning in towards each other, a trust, uh, a care for one another that is important for Cameron and I with one another, and important for us to feel with our audiences and vice versa. And so I think that being a duo helps us to kind of model some sorts of relational behavior, and ideally invite that to sort of spread through a room. And as far as individually, I just identify as really at my core as being a creator of things, and often uh, the things I'm most drawn to are the mysterious, intangible things, the feelings that art gives me without words. Even Cameron tends to be the lyricist of our group, and I tend to be sort of the maybe the producer and the lean heavier on the musical side of things. And that's because I just am so interested in why music and art makes us feel things, and why creating something makes us feel things. Uh, it feels like magic, and I love it. And
Mm,
that's
mm. Yeah. So I always like to do this when there's stuff behind people because most people just have a row of books. And I have Barbies, if you could see 17 inches below the camera. They're all over the floor. Record this in the kids' playroom. Um, uh, so Ryan, for you, which one of those two guitars is the one that matters? Like if you had to just pick it up in the dark and play it,
You know what?
assuming that the amp would work for both, you know.
Little camera
Yeah.
pan
No,
up
only
to the.
those two.
Oh, it has to be the two.
They're on the couch. Obviously, those are the ones you
I
like.
They were, well, you can see they were just above that spot there. The one above it on the wall means the most to me because it was
Mm,
built by a woman here in Tucson who gifted it to me, and she
Yeah,
was
that
just
blonde acoustic back there.
yeah, she was just getting
mm,
the hang of building acoustic guitars, and she passed away shortly after. She
mm,
actually grew ill while building that guitar. She got sick with cancer, and she
mm.
passed away from it shortly after finishing it. And it's just I love. So there's so much intangible wrapped up in that instrument, and then it also is my favorite sounding one that I've got, and but also just to like hold it and know that like this was what she poured when her time was finite, and she knew that this was what she chose to do. This is what she went to for joy, and was to build this instrument. And um, it just feels so incredible to know that like these, like no hours could be more valuable that I can
Yeah.
imagine than the hours, those particular hours that were spent on that instrument. And I just feel like it's just such a treasure. So
Mm.
so there's a great joy in that one. The red one is a new Takamine guitar I got that I love, and that's my newest favorite because it's it's kind of made to play fast on and
Yeah.
do, and it's a little smaller body, so I'm ready to, when we can get back on stage. I'm already practicing how I can kind of move around with it and getting the stage moves going. It'll be fun. So instead of a
Yeah.
huge bulky one, it's meant for for some Springsteen knee slides, I think.
Cameron, 20 years. So you said you've been a band for 20 years, correct?
Yeah, we played our first show 20 years ago this coming August.
Mm.
It was just a tiny little thing. We were both in college at the time. We knew each other back in high school, but we didn't play in the same band. We were kind of in rival rock bands in high school, and then post high school, the rivalry dissolved. We became friends and started playing together, and it was just sort of a, I don't want to say like a lark. It wasn't. We weren't making fun of anything. It was just like, this sounds joyful and easy to play
Mm.
just the two of us, because we've both been in rock bands, and it's a hard thing to manage a rock band. It's heavy in the sense of managing all these personalities, and it's also heavy carrying a lot of amps and drums. So yeah, we just got together. Like, what would it be like just the two of us to just a lighter enterprise, I guess. So
Yeah.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah. So at a high level, I wanted to talk about an album that, again, the young lady that set this up sent me. So I hope that that was fine. She gave me access to it ahead of time. I have no idea
Yeah,
if that's
yeah.
Absolutely,
allowed or not.
yeah.
And then, so I'm not good at writing lyrics. So Ryan, I get that. I play guitar. I'm not very good. Matter of fact, it sounds like y'all have like four guitars playing. So I'm assuming you're looping over on top of yourself, which I don't know how you would do that live. Or is it just the two of you on the album?
It is, yeah, there are some layers on the album. There's a string quartet on much of the album as well. Uh, Typically we do tour live just the two of us, and so it's two primary guitar parts. So most everything in the record is going to have one or two primary guitars that are creating most of that sound, and then we
Yeah.
do some other percussion with our feet and things on stage too.
So this morning on the way to work, so I've been listening to the album for about a week because that's how long I've had it.
Uh,
I keep coming back to Appy Returns, and
ah,
it ends up being the last thing that I hear before I get into work. Like once I drop the kids off and I hit play and I just let
yeah.
it go,
Yeah.
that seems to be where I end. Um, I'm curious as to why that has no lyrics because I think it's the only one,
Yeah.
unless I'm wrong. And then um, I don't know, like why is that there? Like what actually let me zoom back. Like what are you doing with this album? Because I want to be real clear. Haven't listened to your older stuff because
Hmm.
I just haven't.
Yeah, that's okay.
So what's going on with Under the Leaves? And then if you could dovetail back into that, like why no music, why no words, why the reprieve specifically at like minute two, the entire tempo of the music kind of seems to shift as well, right at about minute two of Appy.
Hmm.
However, we'll get there. So Under the Leaves, what is that? Feel free, whoever wants to jump in.
Yeah, to me, Under the Leaves is just a response to like the breakneck pace of life around us over the last couple of years, our own touring schedule, the craziness of the world, and then just sort of trying to take a step back and being like, I need to breathe. I need to find some quiet. I need to find some silence with which to see the world and see myself clearer. And so within that space, there are a lot of conversations about relationships. What happened in this relationship? How did I show up? And is that who I wanted to show up as? What's happening in my relationships on Facebook and in the world, and how am I showing up there? And then it also kind of looks at like if we don't collectively stop and take a breath and know our own histories and listen to our own stories, we're not going to be able to do that well to the stories of others. Like if we don't know our own stories, we don't really generally have space
Mm.
to listen to the stories of others. And if we don't do that, what might the world look like if we don't pause and rest? If we don't take a deep, if we don't take a deep drink of water,
Mm.
what will happen? So to me, that's kind of the course of what's happening on the record. It's trying to find some space to breathe and then see ourselves and face ourselves. And I think right there in the middle is just this like this jaunt. This Appy Returns is just there's so many lyrics on the album. There's so many words that it's just such a welcome break from all of that, from all of those thoughts, all the philosophy, all the words, to just like go on this ride. And that's something that there's precedent for in our band. We have typically had at least one instrumental on most of our records, in some cases two or three
Mm-hmm.
instrumentals.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a nice break. It's a nice break from the words, and my man Ryan Green can just fly. His fingers are very quick, and we call him the maestro because he just burns up the neck of the guitar, and that's just a chance for him to do that and for us to feel something and not say something but feel something, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my take. Ryan, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean that. So specifically, that's my goal with the whole sort of production of the album, was that to make to feel something, to give you a musical bed that matches lyrically what is being said. So there's more feeling on this record as a whole, which is one of the reasons I wanted to work with a string quartet on this record. I just feel like um, the beauty of that, and the we're like programmed to be manipulated by string quartets by orchestral or by strings. It's like we watch a movie and it makes us feel we don't know why we're crying. And if you've ever watched the movies where they mute the background, if you ever watch these scenes where they mute the
That's
music,
dry. Yeah.
there's nothing. You don't feel anything.
Yeah.
It feels awkward. And anyway, so it's an amazing thing what it does, and I felt like it was really special to get to work with the string players we did on this record. So and that song Appy Returns specifically, I mean, so it's kind of a sequel to a song called Appy Jam from an older record of ours called The World Awaits, and that song, that instrumental Appy Jam, had become kind of a crowd favorite. It similarly works, just like on the album, having an instrumental moment works as a sort of a palate cleanser and a place to sit in some space. And live, it does the same thing. And we tend to do a lot of storytelling live. There's a lot of, they go pretty deep. The shows go deep. There's a lot of humor and laughing, and there's also a lot of depth. And sometimes after working people's emotions for a little while, the best thing you can do is just say, all right, now for something completely different. And you go in and play a 2 guitar jam, and people feel great. And
Mm-hmm.
and it's as simple as that. It's as simple as enjoying a little flying fingers for a couple minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I itch to talk about religion if I go longer than 15, 20 minutes. And so I'm going to work a question in there for that. So how does what you do in your church or in your, your worship or whatever word you want to wrap around that, how does that inform kind of the way that you write music outside of the church? Because I don't think that you would be playing these really on a Sunday morning, Wednesday morning, Saturday morning, whatever morning it is that you do your Zoom church, because that's the world that we live in and people can tune in whenever they want. Like, how does the way that you practice faith kind of inform the way that y'all write music collaboratively or even individually?
That's interesting. I think I might answer that by saying that one of the things that we attempt to practice um, at the church that I go to, which is just like a non-denominational evangelical something, 200 to 300 people, is to walk through like the kind of liturgy each week, something that bears a resemblance to God is holy, we are needy, Jesus redeems us, and then we are sent. Or another way of looking at it would be like we're gathered in, we hear the word, we sit at the table, and then we're sent out. Something like that. There's those are not the only ways to talk about that. Not the only ways the church has traditionally broken that up. But the idea there being that some form like that every week slowly forms us over time. That's a part of spiritual formation over time.
Mm-hmm.
I heard this really great quote. I can't remember who it's from, but it basically the person was saying that we overestimate what we can accomplish in one really great worship service. Even if we have the best songs and we got to the soaring heights and everyone was crying and everyone had, emotions and the prayers were prayed, we overemphasize what we can accomplish during one service, but we underemphasize what we can accomplish in 10 years of services. Just a basic form. So there's, to me, what I'm taking from all of that is that storytelling works on us over time. So just the presentation of what all this is and where we fit in all of this and what we need to be able to move forward and how we're sent into the world, hopefully as new people, just rehearsing that piece by piece over time. That's, I guess, what we try to do. And those are similar themes to what I think about as a band. I care a lot about how an album tells a story. And I know that the album form is kind of going away. We're a lot more in a single music culture right now, and that's okay too. But I still care a lot about the rise and fall and how you find your footing and how you might open up over the course of an album. And so I'm always meticulous about sequencing songs in certain places. Like we were sequencing this album Under the Leaves, and there was one song where I was like, man, this song can't, Ryan wanted to put it at a certain spot on the record for like the musical rise and fall. Cause he's thinking a lot about how is it moving me, I think, as the album goes on, how is it moving my experience, my emotions? But I'm like, this song can't go that late on the album because it's an immature song. Like it
Which
needs
song
to
is
be
this?
that's a song called Gone Before I Go.
Hmm.
And it ended up being the song that opens the second half of the album, but it was a couple of songs later originally. And it's just a song of kind of running away, like thinking that it will be better somewhere else. But the song that ends up following it is this really deep song that Ryan wrote called Not Alone, that talks about really digging into our childhoods and our history and figuring out how to have really deep roots and heal from. So it doesn't make any sense to follow that with this sort of flighty relationship song about running away and thinking, oh, it'll be better somewhere else, So that's how it works on me. Is I want there to be this progression as you listen through time and time again, that slowly it's working on you, this
Yeah.
progression through the songs.
Yeah. What do you want to say? I can see your mouth
Yeah, well, I was
moving.
gonna say. I mean, it's funny because we go through this with every, whenever we build a set list for any show, it's very similar. I'm building this arc, this emotional arc, that again, mostly dealing with the sort of rise and fall and crescendos of musical nature, and and then he will say like, these, the message of these two should go. He's thinking purely the lyrical message. I'm thinking of the way the songs will flow or the way the keys will go from one another. Or we just did 3 upbeat songs, so we can do a down song, but we shouldn't do 3 in a row. And it's great that we view them in through different lenses. And he's got these sort of analytical lyrical approach to make that story work. He's like, what if we put these two songs next to each other? This song will be the sort of the punchline the other song needs, and
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get both parts of that. Actually, one of my favorite albums, and the name is escaping me at the moment. But The Brilliance. Are you familiar with the band The
Yeah,
Brilliance?
yeah, David Gunger's band.
Yeah, he has an album and it's like blue and it's like a moon, and I could look it up at the
Yes.
moment. But it is like you literally just sit there and hit play
Uh,
and then you don't do anything. Like you just listen, and it's absolutely wonderful. Andy Squire's new album is a lot like that as well. I don't know if you've heard his new album. It's brilliant.
no. I do think you're thinking of All Is Not Lost, though. Does that sound right? By The
That is
Brilliance,
right.
All Is Not
Yeah.
Lost.
Yeah. Yeah. The
That is
one
a great
before
album.
whatever they did with the Green album that's out right now. I don't know what's happening there. I'm not feeling that one, but that's okay. David can do what he wants to do.
You know,
Right.
my
It's his music.
my grandpa's a musician who I kind of inherited my love and interest for music for, and that bass that was on my wall is his bass. And when he heard about our new CD, he wrote back and said, he emailed me and said, "I'm trying to think of how to describe your latest CD. It's remarkable, but it goes beyond that. By the time I was listening to the final two tracks, I think I was somewhere else, and that I had to get back to reality when it was finished."
Mm,
And I was like, I was so, because he's a
nailed it.
big band musician.
Mm,
He comes from a different era. He plays in Dixieland jazz groups and writes for big bands. So, you know, acoustic pop rock is not his forte. And I just love that it did it. I've never heard commentary. He's always encouraging, but I've never gotten that kind of feedback from him.
mm.
So that's when you guys are talking about being, an album that you can get lost in. I was pretty happy to hear that.
Oh yeah, those are my favorites.
Yeah.
Absolute favorite. Another he's actually let me use his music on the show in the past. Heath McNeese is an artist that does that, but he makes me
Mm.
laugh because sometimes he'll do the same album, but one will be rap and one will be like acoustic singer songwriter.
Whoa.
He actually did one that's on all inspired by C.S. Lewis, but he like weaves his family story into it, and it's really good.
That
I
So
can
awesome.
That
I can
sounds
send it.
squarely up my alley.
I can send it to you. Like I think it's called like The Problem of Pain but it's basically based upon all of the works of C.S. Lewis, but he's like telling stories about his grandfather. Anyway, we're here to talk about your stuff, not that. I'll
We
send
can
it
talk
to you.
about C.S. Lewis, man. That sounds awesome.
I'll send it to you. I'll have to get your direct emails. It's everywhere. It's on all the places. So I don't remember the name of the song. There's a lyric. Actually, I do know. It's so in Morning Break. There's a lyric in here, and I'm going to try to read it at my handwriting here. So, and all the tears I thought were wasted, watered down below, till a garden.
From
Can't
the
read my.
graves.
There we
From
go.
the
I can
grave
read my
began to
handwriting.
grow.
Yeah. Who wrote that? What is this song about? Like, and specifically, like, rip apart that lyric. Because Ryan, you said you didn't write lyrics, and then Cameron just said you wrote an entire song. So I feel like you lied to me, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Listen.
Primarily, we break all the
Right.
rules in our band, but it's like an 80-20 split.
Right, and here's the deal. I've written a good melody in my time, and Ryan has written some beautiful lyrics in his time. So it's I think we both have skill, but we certainly work one muscle more than the other.
Yeah.
For that song, for Morning Breaking, that was written as a response to, there's kind of a breakup pop song early on the record called I Didn't Have the Chance.
Mhm.
And it's just a song of kind of going, there was somebody that really mattered to me, and I let it slip away. I didn't speak up in time. I don't know if I had the courage to speak up in time, or if I should have. I don't know if I did the right thing, but it slipped away. And I kind of look back and I'm like, maybe if this, maybe, and then it's all just too many maybes. And we were working on that song, writing it, and I think I was sitting at the piano and playing it. And the last chord was sort of ringing out from it, and it's just such a song of regret that I didn't really know where to go from there. But I think just feeling that sense of regret, I just sort of started pounding the keys. I'm not a great piano player, but I just pounding easy chords over and over, and this melody, this high vocal melody kind of came out, and this longing, this like, I just longing to shake off regret, or longing to shake off shame, longing to shake off the fear that those things that just seem to stick around, right? And so I just wrote from that perspective, and the first lyrics are wide awake, the morning breaking, night I'm shaking off. My eyes are wide, they've been in months. And I was like, yeah. I need that in my life. I need this. Like, it from a place, like I wasn't fully there yet, but I was imagining, I was building a vision. And so I kept going. It's the weight of my makes had fallen from my hands like scattered seed behind me as I ran. And all the tears I thought were wasted watered down below till a garden from the grave began to grow. Now through the fields and through the forest, on to unknown lands, I learned to love the traveler as I am, so that I'll be ready to love when I have a chance. And so those are the complete lyrics to that tune. And me, it was this idea that all the things I wrong, regrets, the relationships that didn't turn out that I thought they should, or who I thought I was supposed to be, always just, all those things feel like failure. And the idea of like waking up from it being like, all of those things, all of that weight fell off of me. But it didn't just fall like a back, like a pilgrim's sort of, off the back. It all came out as these seeds. Every one of those things planted a seed in my life. And I love the image that all the tears I thought were wasted were the very things that were watering those things, right? Mm. All the times I thought, this doesn't make any sense. I don't know how to move forward from this. Every time I pray about this particular situation, it gets harder and not easier, and I don't know how to look at that. And it's only ever years later that you look back and you go, this is how I grew from that, or this thing caused this thing, and it was the most important thing that could have happened to me. But you only ever get to see it later, I think. And so it's just trying to own those things, the hard things, bringing those all in together, and saying that where I thought it was just ashes, just a grave, just brokenness, those are the very places that the garden grows from. Those are the very places that new life can come from.
Yeah. Is this the same song? I don't have all the songs, at least the order memorized, because I hit on random usually. There's a song, and the reason I asked this, Ryan, is because you had talked about how important the melody is and the rise and fall and etc. There's a song in here that the piano literally sounds off tune. Is it this song? Is it this one, or is it the last? It's either this one or the next to last one on the album. I think it's one.
This is the main piano song on the album, right? I mean, if you're talking about piano,
there's one of them, like at the beginning, it sounds like someone's slamming on it, but the piano itself sounds like a 30-year-old piano that's just been in the basement for a while. That grabs my attention. So why, for melody needing so much, like why leave that? Like there's this tension there, like there's just discord there. Like
part of that tension is actually just the chords Cameron's playing on the piano. He's got this really dense right-hand chord, and he's changing the bass notes through it, but there's all these very close notes to one another. A 5-second music theory lesson for me who's not into it is that normally your notes in a chord are two keys. There's an empty white key between the other notes. You don't usually play two notes right next to each other, or you get a lot of dissonance, unless you want that dissonance. And there's a lot of dissonance in those chords, and so I think part of it is maybe the piano in the room itself, and the distance. It's mic'd from far away, so you're getting this big sound. Mm-hmm. I think it's just the angst. It's just a picture. When you hear him first come in singing, you hear him pounding the piano, and then his first note. It's like one of the highest vocals Cameron's ever sung on our record. Very top of his range. We actually recorded it low. We lowered the key initially, or he demoed it up in that height, and then we lowered it thinking like, well, let's put it in a more reasonable key for you. Mm-hmm. And we ended up going back to it. It's like it needs the pain, it needs the like yearning, it needs the effort required to be up there. So yeah.
So you both lead worship from what you said earlier. So I have songs as well that I'm like, no, if you ask me to sing this on Sunday, I'm not singing this song. Tired of this song. It's not happening. Has nothing to do with the album. But I'm wondering, like, you show up and you're like, absolutely not.
It's hard. I have so many of those, but I don't want to like go on the record throwing shade at other other artists. It's too hard. It's like, here's the thing. I definitely have my opinions, but I just have it. To me, it's like a spiritual practice to like say good things about things. and so I guess I'm sort of throwing you under the bus right now, Seth, for asking
So
that,
you
and
know
making
what?
you look bad. But
So for me, no, it's fine. I'll own it because I've literally, so there's two. There's Mary Did You Know? I'm not going to sing it. Hate that song. Ever, ever. And then second is Trading My Sorrows. I can't stand it.
I
Hate
can't
this.
either.
I can't see. Look at you did it. I'm proud of you.
I did it. You did it, Seth. You did it.
So that's it. There's a few others. There's another one that they like to have sing called Come to the Water, which requires like an 18-piece band, which we don't have. And
Yeah.
it sounds awful.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, I'm guilty generally of like being. I am gonna be. It's hard, Even our favorite songs of all time. Like, remember how amazing "Clocks" by Coldplay was the first 70 times you heard it. Probably it was like amazing for a lot of times, and it's really unfortunate that it becomes sometimes things become less amazing. Sometimes maybe you might think a song is not amazing right away, but there's worship songs that I used to think were amazing, and then I want to feel I want to be stirred, and so I'm just often looking for songs with that unusual with the flat 7 chord to put it in the Mixolydian mode instead of the major mode, or it's got the minor 5 chord to do the same thing. Dwell, this old Vineyard song, Dwell in the Midst of Us, 3 chords the whole time, but it's the G. I don't remember what key it's in. I'll say it's G to D minor to C or something like that. It's that D minor. It's the 5 chord is minor instead of major, and it's like I'm drawn to that. There's positive resolution. It's landing on a major chord, but it's got that slightly like unusual thing there, which to me reflects life on Earth.
Yeah.
And
I know
yeah.
often I think all you have to do to make people extra move though is you just put the D synthesizer pad playing in the back and just let that play the whole time. Because most songs on Sunday you could just stick with D and you're fine with it. You don't even need to move it. At least the songs that we play.
I mean, I'll say that here's what this makes me think of is just this is a really hard question, and I know people who have struggled, who are question their faith, they start realizing like, was I just feeling something in worship because music makes us feel these things? Was I not like I felt like I was having am I feeling an actual connection to God, is my heart really crying out and connecting, or is it a manipulation of the chemicals in my brain through these chords,
Both and.
by using the Coldplay chords and the if you're in a big church, the lights and the in the fog and stuff. Those are hard questions. And did you say both and?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I often so my favorite scripture for creation, going back to C.S. Lewis Cameron, is when in Narnia, like Aslan is singing creation into being. Like it's just a beautiful retelling of Genesis.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful, like the way that it comes in and anyway layers on top of itself. Yeah. So I want to end with 2 existential questions for each of you, and you can take it in any way that you want. The first one is a new question because I've asked the same question of everyone for the longest time, and I'm still going to ask that because I really enjoy it. But I'm curious. I would like to actually begin playing on the name of the show. What do you feel like each of you are the one thing that you're like, yeah, people need to be allowed to say this in church, and that would maybe help the church be a bit more healthy as we try to be more healthy, because there's a lot of, I would argue, a lot of toxicity and pain. I saw the new research came out today that like the amount of church attendance and people that say that they're followers of any Christian faith is like at an all-time low. Like it actually like shattered records today. I have the news article up on my phone. Like legitimately happened today. So what do you think is one thing that you're like, yeah, if we would allow people to voice this, it maybe would that's what we should be doing, sitting with that.
Yeah. What do we need to be able to say at church? I suppose I need to be able to say at church that I love Rob Bell. That he's someone who's so criticized and for, there's so many reasons, but I can tell you that I wouldn't be a Christian without Rob Bell. I mean, I grew up in the church, and I had all that faith, and I had all the ways that I thought that it was supposed to work, and all the prayers and everything, and it just wasn't sort of working. And I was trying to prove it to myself using the Bible and struggling with inerrancy and, a lot of the themes that you talk about in this podcast, how we read it and how much we need it to be exactly true, and the firm foundation and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And Rob Bell just gave me a different way to read it. It wasn't even, he didn't say there was one new way to read it. It was just, he basically said, can we have a conversation about new ways of reading this? Do you think there might be different strands throughout history of ways that people have talked about this, including hell, including women? Could we talk about some of these things and find precedence in the church for these things? And it was a resounding no, 100%. We can't talk about this at church, and you're gone. Mm-hmm. And that just grieves me, because that just tells, it just sends a message like we're not honest here. Church is not a place that we're honest about things that we're afraid of. It's not a place where we can critically address issues about the scripture. It's a place where we're rehearsing, and that there's a good part for that. That's what I was talking about earlier with spiritual formation. There's a good rehearsal to all of that. But it's basically saying this is not really a place for questions. It's not really a place for conversation. And so everyone who's sitting out there quietly just absorbs that. This is not a place where we really ask questions about things. And that just bums me out, because if we believe this is ultimate truth, right? If this is the most true thing that there could possibly be, then pummel it with every possible question, and it should hold up.
Yeah.
But I think we approach it from such a more scared, fragile place than that.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be my answer.
That's good. It's good. You started preaching there, and I'm fine with that. I like that. I like that. I'm fine with that.
Dude, I could preach.
I think, I mean, it's similar to what you're saying. I think the things that come up for me is, I think, gosh, how about being able to say, I don't know, I'm not sure. Like you're talking, let's have a conversation about it. Let's think about this. Maybe that sort of, it's a dark pressure to always have to know. And also, I feel like what Cameron was saying, the other thing that comes to mind for me is just how much fear there can be. Like, why? I basically am in agreement of that. Like, if this is true, if there is a great truth, then whom then shall I fear? What shall I fear? Like, what fear does there need to be? Why do we need to be afraid of anything? Anything, to be honest, of anything. So there's so many things that churches are afraid of, and I just feel like, why are we afraid of that? Why are we afraid to look at this or to talk to this person? Or so I feel like I don't know how to articulate it any better than that. I can't preach like Cameron, but that's what I'll say.
Well, I'm going to stay with you, because this is you referenced. Have either of you listened to the show in the past? It's okay if you have, or if you haven't.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
well,
you've had some.
I have not dug into it yet. Cameron is I'm like I'm listening to instrumental guitar shred music on my iPod while Cameron's listening to
right, and I'm like,
theology.
whoa, Seth had Dan Koch. Wow, awesome. Brian McLaren, NT Wright.
Dan's a smart guy. Smart guy. Brian's all right. No, I'm kidding. So Ryan, I'll just stay with you. So when you try to wrap words around what it is when you say what God is, like, what is that? And then Cameron, I'm going to ask you the same question in a moment. Like, what do you say to that?
I mean, what I love about my perception of God is that God is everything. God is the Big Bang. God is like anything that. It's like the answer to everything, It's the explanation for everything, and I don't know how to. I've already kind of said it all, I guess, but that's what I feel like, is that God is creation. Every time I learn anything scientific or medical, or like, I'm just like, what? The universe is expanding at what rate? Like, what is going on? God, still expanding? Like, or the I mean, or the this can be, this is what, maybe the Big Bang started from this or that, and it's just all like, I can't not always turn to God and go, whoa, what? Like, how? You know, I have no idea. But and so my connection, the little bit of, I think, creating, uh, it feels beautiful to be a creator in a world where we're in a universe where God is still creating.
Yeah.
Maybe creation is the word I would say God is, you know?
Yeah. 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 I like it. Cameron?
My first thought was like, we're so unqualified to answer this question.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean Ryan and I mean like the three of us and like any of us.
I mean,
But
yeah, humankind.
I don't know. I guess that, the right answer is the Lord is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, rich in love. The right
Exodus.
answer is
Yeah.
God is our refuge and our strength. The right answer is the Lord is our light and our salvation. And the right answer is that God is love. I those are important. I don't mean to throw those under the bus. I love what it seems like you're doing here with this podcast, which you're not throwing out all the babies with the bathwater. There's just so much good
I like
here.
babies.
Yeah, we got to hold on to those babies because there's so much good and so much truth. But I think it's like there's just a bajillion ways of trying to talk about it because you can't quite pin it down, and you shouldn't be able to. If you ever go, this is what God is, you probably don't have it because it has to be bigger. It has to be a higher power. I love this idea that from Peter Rollins where he talks about for a lot of us, God is just a projection of like our parents or something that we hope for, the best version of ourselves. He's like, yeah, that's true. And that's true for a certain part of our development. But another part of our development is that God is a projectile. Literally the things that comes in and destroys the last thing that you thought you knew. And you had it all figured out about God. God is this. God is, God will literally come in and just break that apart and force you into the next place, the next understanding, the next. And I hate that when that happens, man. I hate it more than anything. It's fun to talk about on a podcast, but like I always feel lost. I feel, we have this, the first song on the album Under the Leaves is the song Under the Leaves. And that's really, to me, that's a song to God, like the whole time. And it just is like, it's talking about God like a wind that's like rustling under the leaves, and you're like, there's something there and I don't know how I could grab it. I just feel like I need to be here for it. I need to kind of breathe it in. I need to get quiet enough to listen to, and I need to let me think what it says. It's like at morning I'm waiting, at evening I sing, at midnight I need you, in moments between, in movements I'm making, and thoughts I don't speak, in ways you've been breaking my statues to me. So that's the projectile idea, right? Every idea that I have of myself, God is happy to just sort of kind of knock over. And it's just like somewhere under the leaves. It's somewhere under my breathing. So I don't know. It's just that thing that you can't ever quite catch, but you're like, it's there, and I somehow feel like it's helping me. Yeah. I somehow feel like it's pulling me forward into something good. I somehow feel like that thing wants the world to be a little bit more loving. I somehow feel like that thing wants people to be fairer to each other and to not hurt kids and to not mistreat other races, people who are not like us, and to not subjugate women. I somehow feel like it's pulling me into something better, but I'm definitely going to kick and scream the whole way.
Are you familiar, you're talking about like a projectile, like breaking things. Are you familiar with like a Japanese practice called kintsugi?
I've heard of this. Can you tell me about this?
So it's one of the ways that I like to view God. It's actually, I've been wrestling with a few artistic expressions of God, like taking art and being like, that feels like God to me. One of them is kintsugi though. So basically it's like when you take pottery that's been damaged, like a vessel that's been damaged, and you let it finish being broken and those pieces lie where they are. And then you bring it back together, but like you knit it back together with like precious metals, like gold or silver or something like that. And so when it's formed and fashioned and back together, it's literally stronger than it was when it began, because that's how welds work. but it's also beautiful. Like it's literally like at the seams bursting with precious metals. And it's just like radiant and wonderful and amazing. And I often think sometimes that that's like an attribute of God. Like this was this, and it was good when it was that. And now it's this. And look at these seams. Look how pretty these seams are. Look what we've done. Look what we've done together. I don't know. Yeah.
It's in like the very patterns that the gold is following are the places where it's broken, right? So that's like all the tears I thought were wasted.
Yeah.
You know, all the places that we would rather avoid end up making the pattern, the beautiful shapes and patterns.
Yeah. So I have no idea when the album's out. It might already be out now. I don't think it is.
It's soon, April 16th.
Okay. So I also don't know exactly when this episode will release. So let's just pretend that the album is out. What is the best way in the world that we live in COVID wise now to support y'all, to listen to the album? Like where should people go and go, here's how I can help do.
Jump onto, I mean, so we're Ryanhood. It's like Robin Hood, but Ryanhood, one word. You just go to ryanhood.com and get it there. And that's the best way. And we'll send you a record or a CD. The cool thing about this album is that we made a book that goes with it. It's a large book full of art and full of essays and stories about all the songs. And so that's if you're a streamer, want to stream the album, grab the book and sit in your lounge chair and read through the lyrics and the stories behind the songs while you do that. It's a great way to take it in. And the even bigger way you can support us, which we all know about Patreon here in this podcast, is we've got a Patreon as well. And we've been having a blast. Every Sunday we do a live Zoom half-hour hangout, which they run an hour. They're never a half hour, but it doesn't have the alliteration. Or it sounded better with half-hour hangout, and get to sort of connect in person with people and tell stories and share things on that platform. So
yeah. Well, good. Thank you to you both for your evening tonight, and I thanks for sending me the album. I've enjoyed listening to it. I'll continue.
Thanks
to
for listening to it.
Yeah,
and thanks for starting with the instrumental guitar jam. That's my love language right there.
Well, it felt out of place to me. I'm like, why is it? There's no. I kept. So at like a minute and a half, I was like, all right, so somebody's gonna start singing. And then we got to at 2 minutes, like literally the tempo changes. Like I forget, it's like 158, 201. Like literally the song changes. And I was like, huh. And then it's always right about then. I'm like, well, I got to go to work. Turn it off and yeah.
Well, see, now I'm realizing I misinterpreted. I thought that it was perhaps your favorite, but now I'm just sensing it maybe made you uncomfortable. But that's okay too.
It's okay to be uncomfortable. But no, it's a fun jam. It does infuriate me because I can't play the way that either of you play. I don't have no idea who's playing on either of those. I'm a decent guitarist, but I am by no means a guitarist. I'm
in quotes,
yeah. So, but good. Really appreciate you both coming on. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Seth. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for opening and closing with such big questions, man.